Welcome back to the channel. In the previous episode of Spiritually Conscious Soul 101, I spoke about the secret space programs and the impact they'll have on humanity in these end times. In today's episode, I'm going to continue with this concept, that is, of the effects to be experienced by humanity in the months and years to come, assuming we want to continue with the long route timeline, as discussed in a previous video. That is the route we as humanity on Earth want to experience as the best choice reality. We've alluded to our part in the co-creation process in the projection of this desired reality and its resulting manifestation through the magic of the quantum field. So I want to further reflect on how our long route reality might play out in real time and what we can expect from the deep state and its remaining enclave of desperate minions. They are indeed desperate because they know they have very little time left to establish a continuance of humanity mind subjugation. From their point of view, the only way they can gain an extension is to ramp up the fear factor in the humanity collective mindset and thereby prevent the collective mind tipping point that will fully expose the deep state plan and its method of continued subjugation. A very significant element in their plan will facilitate this continued subjugation, and that is the rigging of the electoral process due in 2024. This election will become the most important of all democratic elections that have taken place in the past, because if the deep state can remain in power, that is, through the Biden and Trudeau administration's illegal and blatantly undemocratic North American destabilization, they will succeed in acquiring another 4 years to expedite their wicked agenda. In order to bring some perspective to the deep state motive, both these governments subscribe to the Wicked Enslavement Forum's nefarious agenda for humanity. The only way they can land the results of this soon-coming election is to rig it in the same way the two previous elections were rigged. And to do this, it will be necessary for them to use well-known U.S. intelligence gathering entities and the deployment of election voting machines to rig the votes. Now, this may seem to be conspiracy theory stuff that has no basis or place on the North American political platform. And to this I would firmly agree. That is, if there was no collaborating evidence. But you see, there is very profound evidence that comes from a highly credible source. Let's have a look-see. The former Deputy National Security Advisor Katie McFarland appeared on Fox Business, a guest of Maria Bartiromo's Wall Street Report, told the interviewer in very strong terms that the next U.S. election, 2024, will be rigged by the FBI and CIA deep state minions. McFarland said in extremely emphatic terms that the deep state could not risk losing the 2024 election due to the fear that the election of a Republican candidate would result in them being held accountable for past election and intervention frauds. We need to sit up and take notice when a highly credible witness such as Katie McFarland takes the stand and brings us such a strong testimony of U.S. state wrongdoing. If you have the means, you may check this fact, and you will see that it did indeed take place. As a researcher, I can assure you that the interview was indeed a factual event, and the idea of conspiracy theory perishes. There seems to be very little that advocates for a fair election in 2024 can do to prevent this from happening, and no one can be blamed for that sinking feeling that we are hooped in seeing a fair election. However, there is one factor that must be considered, one to give us hope that the deep state will not be able to do as it pleases. If my memory serves me correctly, I believe it is Alana Danan's testimony about our extraterrestrial human partnership that centers on a universal law with regard to the abridgment of our free will by negatively polarized entities, such as the deep state players who currently hold sway on planet Earth. They'll not be allowed to unfairly extort the process of government, because it would be an abridgment of our free will. What can we then expect in the 2024 election? The deep state will be unable to circumvent the cause of the democratic election process without humanity having the means to prevent it. I'm not sure how this will pan out in 2024, but it gives me hope that we will be given extraterrestrial help in the form of knowledge on how to prevent the process from being rigged. So it is far from a done deal for the deep state. I understand from this extraterrestrial intervention, however, that we will need to be on our toes to make sure that the rigging process does not happen. I feel deeply in my spirit that we become complacent and think that the extraterrestrials are going to do it all for us, we will end up under another 4 years of the current administration's subjugation. So there we have it, my dear viewers. Do you really want to stick your proverbial head in the sand and leave it to other souls? Or will you take up the baton and enter the race for humanity's long route future? Just to make sure that a successful outcome for humanity in 2024 is not misinterpreted, there will still be a difficult road to follow. We as humanity will need to actively embark on a campaign to educate those who still have their heads in the sand, to join with us in dispelling all semblance of fear. And I remind you that the false flag intervention will be coming soon. I have a memory of the report about George Orwell's April Fool's joke in 1938 and how this resulted in such fear of an alien invasion that many committed suicide to avoid becoming food for ravenous alien creatures who were bent on eating human flesh. It can be said that humanity is much more educated about aliens than they were in 1938, and perhaps this is true. But the mainstream media moguls have been spinning a story about the coming invasion that will be as effective today as it was back in the 1938. I alluded here to the CIA-backed AATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, under the auspice of one Luis Elizondo, a former counterintelligence agent working for the US Army. This group has been actively advocating for a fear-based scenario, trying to make sure that the masses of humanity will be programmed to fear a coming alien intervention. We need to take action today. There is a small window for us to create the atmosphere for political change and to bring about the conditions where humanity can face the future with confidence. I trust that you, the viewer of this episode, will be motivated to take that baton and run. I'm reminded of the biblical quote in the book of Hebrews that says the following: "Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." Well, that's all we have time for today, so don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons. Thank you for watching my channel. Be sure to catch up with the latest material on the next viewing of Spiritually Conscious Soul 101.